Good evening. Welcome to Face Off. Our big focus today coming all the way from Biarritz in France, where Prime Minister Modi managed a bit of a diplomatic coup of sorts at the G7 summit, because in the bilateral meeting that he had with President Trump, obviously there was good body language on display, but more importantly, he made one thing loud and clear, that Kashmir is a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan, and if ever the need were to arise, the talks will happen strictly between India and Pakistan. There is no need for a third country to intervene or to mediate. And the important bit is here. Trump agreed. He said that yes, it's a good situation. Prime Minister Modi has assured him that Kashmir is under control. India and Pakistan have been talking and something good will come out of it. He also said that Prime Minister Modi has assured him that the situation is very much under control. Now, here's the thing. This is in stark contrast. It's a complete U-turn from the bombshell that he dropped just a few weeks ago at the Oval Office when Imran Khan was visiting the White House back in July, the last week of July, when Trump said that he would love to mediate in the Kashmir dispute. So with Prime Minister Modi setting the terms and clearly drawing red lines tonight in Biarritz, we're asking a very simple question. Is Pakistan's Kashmir internationalization attempt completely coming apart? That's our big question here on Face Off. But first, listen in to what Trump said today and contrast that with what he said when he met Imran Khan at the Oval Office, at the White House, back on the 22nd of July, and how it's two polar opposites.
I think they'd like to see it resolved, and I think you'd like to see it resolved. And if I can help, I would love to be a mediator. It's impossible to believe two incredible countries that are very, very smart, with very smart leadership, can't solve a problem like that. But if you would want me to mediate or arbitrate, I would be willing to do that.
Yes, Mr. But I can tell you that right now, you will have the prayers of over 1 billion people if you can mediate and resolve it.
We spoke last night about Kashmir, and the Prime Minister really feels he has it under control. I know they speak with Pakistan, and I'm sure that they will be able to do something that will be very good. We spoke about it last night at dinner. I'm here. I have a very good relationship with both gentlemen, and I'm here. If for any reason, but I think they can do it themselves very well. They've been doing it for a long time.
भारत और पाकिस्तान के सारे इश्यूज बायलैटरल हैं और इसलिए हम दुनिया के किसी भी देश को इनके लिए कष्ट नहीं देते हैं और मुझे विश्वास है कि भारत और पाकिस्तान जो 1947 के पहले एक ही थे, हम मिलजुल करके हमारी समस्याओं पर चर्चा भी कर सकते हैं और समाधान भी कर सकते हैं.
And right after that meeting between Modi and Trump, the bilateral on the sidelines of the G7 at Biarritz, Imran Khan, the Pakistan Prime Minister, he addressed his country and he claimed that he had successfully internationalized Kashmir. He even threatened a nuclear war.
नरेंद्र मोदी ने तारीखी ब्लंडर किया है, हिस्टोरिकल ब्लंडर. यूनाइटेड नेशंस की सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने पहली दफा 1965 के बाद पहली दफा उन्होंने कश्मीर के ऊपर सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने इजलास बुलाया. इसकी वजह से कश्मीर इंटरनेशनलाइज हो गया. ये अगर मसला जंग की तरफ चला गया तो याद रखें कि न्यूक्लियर हथियार हैं दोनों मुल्कों के पास, और जो न्यूक्लियर जंग है वो कोई भी नहीं जीतेगा. लेकिन ये नहीं कि यहां भी तबाही मचेगी, ये दुनिया के ऊपर इसके असर जाएंगे. इसलिए जिम्मेदारी आज आलमी कम्युनिटी के ऊपर है. दुनिया आए हमारे साथ या ना आए, पाकिस्तान तो अब हर हद तक जाएगा.
As much as Imran Khan claims that this has been internationalized, the Kashmir issue has been internationalized, the message that we're getting from Biarritz seems to be slightly different. Let me get in our guest here in our studios. Parthasarathy is former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan. Aman Thakur, foreign policy analyst, joining us in our studios. GVL Narasimha Rao, member of parliament and spokesperson of the BJP. Dr. Raja Kaiser Ahmed is a foreign affairs analyst. He's joining us via Skype from Islamabad. I'll start with you, Ambassador Parthasarathy. I mean, in that brief sort of to the press comments that both the Prime Minister and President Trump had, not once did President Trump bring up the word mediation. In fact, on the contrary, he said, Prime Minister Modi has assured me that the situation in Kashmir is under control, and I'm sure he's talking with Imran Khan and they will do something good. Is that a big win for India? You would say?
I look at it in terms of Trump's conduct of foreign policy. Everything is geared to his election on November 3, 2020. Therefore, he had earlier been persuaded that a complete withdrawal is called for.
Okay.
In the meantime, both the Pentagon and the State Department, not to speak of the CIA, found that Pakistan is still playing the same games. The Taliban is as equipped as they were. More importantly, there are rumblings against Pakistan very strongly within Afghanistan itself.
Okay.
So, as far as I can tell, the strategy has been changed. They are going to retain, well beyond his election, a residual 8 to 10,000 troops.
So he's not interested in this peace deal anymore?
With control of Bagram and Kandahar.
No, what about the peace deal between the Taliban and the Afghan government?
That will go on. But he is now convinced that he is not going to deploy his troops all over.
Okay.
They'll be spread and concentrated and more on a training mode. And therefore, this is what they've done elsewhere also.
So if you're saying that his strategy vis-a-vis Afghanistan has changed, that I think is a big takeaway, because all the while, the wisdom here in New Delhi was he needs Pakistan to get the Taliban to the negotiating table. That's why, he's talking about mediation in Kashmir, so on and so forth. Now, if you're saying that has changed...
That has changed for the simple reason. Taliban behavior, combined with the fact there are reappearances of Taliban, of the Al-Qaeda in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan, this has shaken up. The Pentagon has been pressing for this very long, and now, by all accounts, he will keep a residual force there. It doesn't make sense for him to even act nice to you.
Because if that's the case...
But the other one last point, what he said about mediation and so on was firmly enough contradicted, and the message got through to him in several channels.
Okay. No, but here's the thing. When he made those comments on the 22nd of July, it was a bolt from the blue. Nobody in the MEA expected him to say that, because it was India's stated policy for the last 40 years that, look, whatever is there to talk will be talked between India and Pakistan. So there's no question of mediation. So clearly, either he was ill-informed, he didn't know that, or he completely exceeded his brief. He didn't realize what a blowback it's going to have in India. Now, if Ambassador Parthasarathy is saying that's changed, he's realized that, look, Afghanistan, he can't call back every American troop that there is in Afghanistan, and that's probably not even going to be on the top 5 issues in the run-up to his re-election. Then India has less to worry if he's going to link that, the situation in Afghanistan, to a possible mediation attempt in Kashmir.
Well, I think also it's, I think that's a factor, but I also want to say that, India's done the right thing here, which is maintain a consistent engagement with the Trump administration. So you've seen continuous phone calls and meetings, 2+2 intersessional, a phone call between the Prime Minister and the President, and now this meeting. All of this has, firmly said that India is taking back control of the narrative that spun out of control. Like you said, it came out of the blue, no one expected it. And India did the wise and strategic thing, which is, okay, this has happened. How can we win back control of this issue? And so that, I think, is also a diplomatic victory for India. And I think the communications and the discussions that are happening there, I have to say that the Afghanistan discussion should have come up at 2+2. They said that regional issues were discussed. So I do think that, Ambassador Parthasarathy is right. And that, India played its cards in the best way possible, and that's why you're seeing the result that is present
GVL,
here.
it's clear that India stood its ground, because, and I don't think India had an option, because this is the core issue. You can't allow, third-party mediation or even the attempt at one, and that's been India's stated position since the Shimla Agreement in 1972. The question is, with Trump, we never know. He said this today. I mean, just last week, in the context of Afghanistan, he said, look, India and Pakistan have to do more. India is right there. Pakistan is right there. They have to contribute troops. So we don't know what he's going to say next week. He said the right things today, and we're all happy for it. But next week is another ball game altogether.
Not really, Zaka. I think save that one comment in the bilateral with Prime Minister Imran Khan. I think the U.S. State Department's policy also had been very consistent, and soon after our Foreign Affairs Minister made a statement in Parliament and said this will always remain a bilateral. We will never want a third-party mediation in this matter. I think they certainly backtracked. You certainly saw a retraction from there. They clarified, okay, it's a bilateral. Both countries should engage and sort out any pending matters. So, and even after the repealing of 370, Article 370, you had very, very unrestrained support coming from all major powers and including United States. So certainly I think that, to my mind, that one statement or one comment is little out of the ordinary, and otherwise even the United States approach towards issues concerning India and Pakistan has been consistent.
No, but Jivel, he also said in the context of Kashmir and in the context of 370 that he has been assured by Prime Minister Modi that the situation is under control. The corollary to that would be that if the situation were to spiral, as and when the curbs are lifted, it's been 20 days, at some point the curbs will be lifted. If the situation were to spiral, then Trump would come back with his offer of mediation. So the onus really is more on us than on him.
No, Zaka, I think having all these countries having accepted our position, our consistent position, that anything that concerns the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir is entirely an internal matter.
Sure.
I think we don't need to really either engage with our neighbor or with anybody else. So I think this the situation is certainly getting back to normalcy. In our own country's interest, we want to see that there is no untoward incidents don't happen.
Okay.
But certainly it's the last of our worries that any country will really meddle with our efforts when we actually settle down.
I'll come back to that thread because I think Jivel's touched upon something. I'll just come back to that with Ambassador Parthasarathy in 1 second. But I want to go to Dr. Raja Kaiser Ahmed. He's our Pakistani analyst who's joining us on Skype. You know, just moments after the Trump-Modi meeting and the body language, the words chosen by both leaders, it's there for all of you to see. It's there for the world to see. In fact, there were Pakistani journalists who were tweeting away on Twitter saying they can't believe their eyes, that this is what is happening. It's almost like Modi has humbled Trump. The question is this, just moments after that, Imran Khan comes out and has this address to the nation saying we've internationalized Kashmir. I mean, with what face is he saying that? You have the US president sitting right there in front of the Indian Prime Minister saying whatever needs to be spoken about will be spoken about between the Indian and Pakistan Prime Ministers.
Well, thank you in the first place for inviting me. I hope you are getting me clearly. Okay, anyway. Okay. You know, there is one thing, what I'm getting out of your question, there is an intrinsic dichotomy because just, you know, 1 week before, it was India's consistent rhetoric that it is, you know, and Modi's rhetoric that it is an internal issue. But today you are accepting that it's a bilateral issue. So I think it is a better takeaway for Imran Khan to, you know, set out. Because, you know, just 3, 4, 5 days before the rhetoric was altogether different. Yeah, I hope my voice is all right.
We can go on, yeah. Go on.
All right. So, yeah, okay. But and at the same time, you know, things, they are not at normal pace because there is a curfew right now in Jammu and Kashmir. And, you know, you haven't had experienced the ripple effect of what you have done in the form of repealing Article 370. So the real response would come when Indians, they would lift the curfew and the things, you know, and then the life would resume back in the valley.
But Dr. Ahmed, one second, Dr. Ahmed. No, Dr. Ahmed, one second. If you are so worried, if you are so worried about what the situation might be when the curbs are lifted, how come you're not saying a word about the last 20 days? On the 5th of August, Article 370 was revoked. Not one death has happened in the aftermath for 20 days. I mean, somehow that seems to escape every Pakistani analyst.
Because the kind of curbs and the kind of curfew which your forces, they have imposed.
I mean, High Commissioner Parthasarathy is here. High Commissioner Parthasarathy is here and he's shaking his head. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Let us be very, very clear. You had a constitutional amendment affecting a state, all right? People who have been used to this for 70 years are going to take time to adjust to this constitutional amendment, which is moving through. A couple of things I'll give you on the internal developments linked to this. We don't need the old Kashmiri leadership. Panchayat elections have been held. Grassroots democracy is going to be in place. We cannot afford to lift the curfew for a simple reason. That we still got guys from across the border with AK-47s and rocket launchers positioned in different places. You can't even risk that one incident.
But
what we are doing is not allowing that to happen. Normalcy, I agree with my Pakistani friend in the sense of restoring totally what. But the fact of the matter is, if any terrorist gets caught with a Pakistani weapon, like they got caught after the big shootout, they're in trouble because the Americans now have made it very clear to them, lay off.
Yeah.
So they now will have a more difficult task because the guys they've smuggled in with weapons are still there with Pakistani weapons.
The thing that is, double standards, Dr. Ahmed, is this. No, one second. You are going on and on about internationalizing. Other than China, can you name for me one country that has taken your side on this issue? It's been 20 days since Article 370 went, number one. Number two, you can't have it both ways when you say, oh, wait till the curbs go, and then at the same time not talk about the last 20 days when nothing has happened. I keep saying this again and again. Not one death has happened in the last 20 days. If as you claim, Dr. Ahmed, if as you claim, this is the end of the world and Kashmir is going to be transformed forever, then why haven't we seen that?
All right. No, let me respond. Okay, you know what? I mean, as I said earlier, that this stance in itself is dichotomous because India, at one point, it claims that it is an internal development, and into their meeting with Trump, Prime Minister Modi says that it is a bilateral issue. So I think it is a major takeaway that India still accepts it as a bilateral issue because after the Simla, what you were referring to in the earlier part of the program, you cannot take any unilateral.
You are still not answering my question. No, answer my question, please.
No, I'm coming to your part of the question. You know what? This Kashmir remains a disputed territory not because of the Indian Constitution but because of the UN resolution. So they still would stand. You cannot deny that.
If the UN was so concerned, one second. If the UN was so concerned, even in that informal meeting, out of 15 countries, only China seemed to stand with you. The rest of the 14 seemed to stand with India. But GVL Narasimha Rao, I think, having said that, I think, can you please...
That is how you are interpreting
it. Did you find... did you find one ambassador... Did you find one ambassador, Dr. Ahmed, come out of that meeting in New York after the UNSC informal meeting, come out and support the Pakistani position?
Niceties of the foreign policy. I hope you are well familiar with the niceties of the foreign policy. There are no black and white in foreign policy.
Now we're talking about niceties in diplomacy. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Either the world community has gone with your position or they've gone with India's position. From what it appeared to me, other than the Chinese ambassador, no other country's ambassador seemed to go with your position. But GVL Narasimha Rao, the earlier point, you want to clarify the earlier point that Dr. Raja Kaisar Ahmed raised, that on the one hand, India says it's an internal matter, and on the other today, it was accepted it's a bilateral matter. And it's been a bilateral dispute since 1972, at least stated position, since Shimla. How do you, he is saying that it is dichotomous. You please explain why it is not.
No, Zaka, I think after several years, I think we have made our position extremely clear. This was actually the position of successive governments, that what needs to be discussed with Pakistan is Kashmir under the occupation of Pakistan. And 1992 resolution of Parliament, where all the parties supported the resolution that the entire Jammu and Kashmir, including POK, is an internal part of India. But that was not very eloquently articulated as a part of the diplomatic initiative. But today we made it abundantly clear. There is nothing that this government will ever discuss with Pakistan as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. If there is any discussion that is required, it will be about Pak-occupied Kashmir.
Okay.
Well, I'm making it very clear. We will talk about Pak-occupied Kashmir with you. We will talk about ending terrorism, Pak exported terrorism to Jammu and Kashmir. We will talk about that. We will talk about trade with Pakistan. We will talk about everything else under the sun. But there is nothing to discuss as far as the political geography of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, which is an internal part of India.
Okay, no, 1 second. The only
No,
difference...
there is absolutely no violation.
There is no violation.
I think all the violations are from Pakistan.
High Commissioner Parthasarathy is here with us.
But the denial is not a policy.
No, 1 second. Well, nobody is in denial. If anybody is, it's you. No, 1 second.
No, you are in a persistent denial. You see, the frame of reference from 1947 to 1956.
One second.
And you are
what is the denial? No, what is the denial? What is the denial?
But the denial is that you agreed to resolve this dispute. You accepted Kashmir as a dispute.
No, we
it was narrow.
We did not.
We never did. We did not.
Hold on.
Okay. Let me. This gentleman from Pakistan. This gentleman from Pakistan is ignorant. Please read the Simla Agreement.
I'm not ignorant.
The point is, please read Article 6 of the Simla Agreement. We've agreed to discuss not the Kashmir dispute. We've discussed this, seek a bilateral solution to the Kashmir issue. Yeah. Our position still remains that you are under illegal occupation of parts of Kashmir and you have to vacate it. Yeah. That has not changed. The fact of the matter is that in the UN Security Council, where your foreign minister went running, expecting everybody is going to embrace him, you landed up with mud all over your face. Yeah. There was nobody to go with you except the Chinese. And the Chinese have had their own dealings with us. Please believe me, when Xi Jinping comes here, you'll find out. So, let's be real. Terrorism of the variety that Pakistan exports.
Pakistan is on the blatant human rights violation.
One second. Amnesty International.
And you are still believing that
Amnesty International. No, 1 second, sir. One second. Amnesty International statements are not any proof of any internationalization of anything.
One last point. That the fact of the matter is that Pakistan is recognized as a terrorist sponsoring state worldwide. The Financial Action Task Force of 75 countries holds you guilty and is demanding remedial actions.
I'll end with that. I was just coming to that. There are two events over the next 2 months which are of immense significance, and a fallout of it could have a bearing on India, Pakistan, and certainly on Kashmir. One is the UNGA, and again Mr. Modi is going there. God forbid, if the situation in Kashmir were to turn violent in the run-up to UNGA, how worrisome would India have to be in terms of the fallout at the UNGA and possibly Trump, saying erratically what he says? And two, more importantly, the FATF meeting in October, where Pakistan could potentially get blacklisted. What could the fallout be if it gets blacklisted, or if it doesn't and continues to be in the grey list?
Yeah, so there's, really let me start with the initial question that you asked to our Pakistani friend, is that because, and this plays out both at the UNGA and the FATF, is that traditional allies and supporters of Pakistan aren't even supporting Pakistan on this issue. And that's on terrorism, and that's on the Financial Action Task Force. So if anything should happen, India over the last 5 years has been laying the groundwork that if anything now should happen in Kashmir, the world knows that it is because of Pakistan-backed terrorists. Yeah. We now know that any unrest that happens there is because of a sinister design set off by Pakistan supporting terrorists in the valley. And so now that the world knows that, even should something happen between now and September end, the groundwork and the evidence has been laid for the last 5 years at least that Pakistan has been behind us. Secondly, the Financial Action Task Force has already stated that Pakistan is woefully behind a lot of its commitments that it made when it got on the gray list. So, putting that into consideration, and the fact that countries that have traditionally supported Pakistan are not saying anything, that now means that India's got very little to worry about, I think.
Okay. I'm going to wrap up by simply advising our Pakistani guest on the show to please go back and read what the UAE put out in the formal statement after the Prime Minister met the Crown Prince yesterday, and what Bahrain. And these are traditional allies. No, Dr. Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed. Yeah, it is about Kashmiris first. I've wrapped up. I'm completely out of time. I will simply urge you to go and read that bilateral statement, and you will see how far the ground has shifted from beneath your feet, even with your traditional supporters, even with the traditional Islamic countries, members of the OIC. how much countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE and others are backing India on an issue such as Kashmir, where they've traditionally always backed you. And I think that will give you an indication of how much the ground is shifted. I'm going to take a break. In fact, not take a break. In fact, I want to thank all our panelists. But we've got a fascinating conversation.